Hello and welcome to the September 21st meeting of the Beaver Dam Lake Resident Advisory Board. I am here in the building with
Walter Bliss.
Chris Dunn, Brad Whitman,
Harry Weinberg.
Alrighty. And we don't have anybody here yet, but I think I just saw cars pull up, so we might have some folks in the building. So as a reminder, going forward, we will be hybrid. So barring anything crazy happening, but we will be hybrid. So you're welcome to join us in the building.
Hi, I'm
Hi, good. How are you? We're just getting started. Not yet. All right, we have folks arriving in the building. All right, so call the meeting to order at 7:01. And we will, before the pledge, if we could, because at the September meeting, as is tradition, we can start with a moment of silence in remembrance of September 11th. Okay, thank you. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right. Happy September, everybody. Back to reality.
Oh, yeah.
Back to reality.
Keep yourself on. I don't like.
Alrighty.
We're new people to the neighborhood, so.
Well, welcome.
You just got the email. See what's going on. No, let's go.
Beautiful. So this is our board meeting.
5 minutes.
Well, so we have a little bit of an audience online. We do it as a hybrid meeting, so it's in person. It's also virtual. So if I'm looking at my computer and switching back and forth, that's why. And we'll do, let's see, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Second. All in favor? Aye. All righty. Kevin and Colette are going to be absent tonight, but we will send them the follow-up video. All righty, so let's jump right in. So with some administrative things, Tom Lark, we are excited to welcome him back. He's our maintenance gentleman. We're excited to welcome him back after his 2 months of medical leave, and he has been working on some projects for us. So you may have seen some of these things kind of going on around the neighborhood. So we wanted to talk a little bit more about them. Tom and resident Bart, who lives very close by to our community building and has always been a fantastic volunteer, who is very helpful in Tom's absence, was also able to collaborate with Tom to collect all of the buoys and get the beach closed up. So we really appreciate that. So all of our beach operations have been dismantled and materials were reorganized, and we're determining what our needs are for next year. We had some equipment kind of not make it through the season this year, some umbrellas and things like that. So we're assessing what those needs are so that we can have a successful beach season for next year. Another thank you to Bart for always volunteering to help with the lake and around the reserve. So we really appreciate your help with that.
And let me just chime in on that though too. We have, how many residents live in the district?
There are a little over 800 households.
About 800 households. And what we really rely on are people stepping up and volunteering. And Bart always is there. So special accolades to Bart. When Tom was out for about 2 months, he offered to pick up the garbage at all the reserves, all 8 reserves. He did that and also helped dismantle the beach, but he's always really pitching in. So I appreciate that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Bart.
Thank you, Bart.
Good
We
job, Bart.
appreciate you.
Bart.
All righty. There were no trespassing signs, and resident only signs were hung on Reserve 2 to help heighten awareness and to help prevent non-residents from using the Beaver Dam Lake facilities. So we have our big green kind of highway signs at every reserve that informs trespassers or people that don't live here and pay taxes that they're not allowed to use the reserves, but they have a lot of text on them and people tend not to read them. So these are kind of more pronounced, brighter signage that were put at Reserve 2, where we had particular issues with trespassing this past season. And a lot of you noticed a lot of comments, positive comments about the sandwich boards that have been put up. Those are the big letter boards that have been put up. So I would like to thank board member Chris Dunn,
Good going, Tom. Chris.
Sign guy, who worked to use the boards throughout the community, attaching copies of the parking permits and the boat permits to inform people about trespassing and what is required to fish in the lake. So signs were rotated throughout the community, so they kind of didn't get stale through July and August. Signs remain up. Chris, do you have anything you want to add?
Roughly about 60 to 70 permit applications were also attached to those signs. They have all been dispersed to you all, so we hope they're being put to good use and being sent back to Fred and the crew to be processed to get your orange stickers.
And if
So
you-
if you ever see the red and white box that's on the signs, if you open the flap, inside are your application to get your boat registration and your parking registration.
If we have new folks here that are interested in getting those applications before we leave, we can hook you up. It's free. And you get the orange stickers for your car. You
Anything,
can-
anything that goes on the lake
Anything
really
non,
needs a permit.
non-gas. Can't use- can't use-
Non-gas.
With a bag.
Mhm.
Yes,
Use the orange sticker and
Battery or.
man powered.
Alrighty.
Alrighty.
I don't want to hear it.
So we are continuing to work on the removal of unclaimed boats. So if you don't have a permit on your boat, or if you have a boat that is wasting away at one of the reserves, we do have our maintenance gentleman back, and he's working with Larry Weinberg on the removal of the unstickered boats. So Larry, do you have anything to add there?
So this is a topic that we've talked about for quite some time. There are some challenges involved in the whole topic, but Tom has been out and Tom went out and surveyed the reserves. So if you keep your boat at the reserve, hopefully you already do have it registered with a sticker, so we can identify boats that have no sticker to start with, and the abandoned watercraft. Anything that looks to be in such disrepair that it would not even be able to be out on the lake. Our goal is to remove those. Disposition hasn't been determined just yet. We would like them to be picked up by the town if possible. If not, we may see if we can work with the sanitation department to remove them. It's just an eyesore. It's not necessary to tie up spots where you could bring your boat down and it's all full right now. So I am starting officially tomorrow with Tom. He is back. So we do have a game plan tomorrow to start removing, obviously, abandoned boats. So if you have one that's down at the reserve and it doesn't have a sticker on it and you want it to stay there, I'm not saying it's going to all disappear. I'm telling you that now is the most urgent moment to finalize this whole thing. So we start tomorrow.
and the other part though, just to add on to that, it's not just getting rid of the eyesores or the obviously disabled boats. There is a possibility that some individuals who are non-residents actually put boats on the reserves and they come into the area and they go out in the lake and use the boat. We want to gain control of that. So therefore, if you are a resident, you have to have a sticker on your boat. Otherwise, your boat, we're to assume, is one or the other. That's it.
Alrighty,
The
and
the other thing is that if you currently have, I mean, this is ancient, if you have the old green sticker and you want to update it, please just let us know, and we can track the number of the green sticker and issue a new orange one. It's not like it's a done deal, so please don't think that there's nothing you can do. If it's an old registration, we can update it.
and if it's an orange sticker, whether it be on your boat or whether it be on your car, it is current until 2024. So if it's orange, you're all good. And just for your own personal usage, we had issues with kayaks from non-residents that were being stolen over the summer. We had a few locks cut and they were taken. They were moved between reserves. One was abandoned at a resident's house. The stickers were how we identified who those boats belong to get them back to folks. It's how the police were able to identify those boats when they were found later, because they were, thanks to Fred and Molly's diligence and their cooperation with local PD at Reserve 2. So do yourself a favor and get those boats permitted. Alrighty. Just a financial note, we're working with DPW to reconcile and expedite overdue payments to vendors. Some of our vendors have done some work here in Beaver Dam and they're waiting to get paid, including our fishery. So we are working with DPW to ensure that those vendors get paid in a timely manner. The videos from these meetings are going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So we have a YouTube channel. If you missed the meeting, if you have questions, it's in the link. The link is in the signature of the emails that you get. So you can see past meetings if you have specific questions about it. I don't have last month's up yet, but I will get it, or I guess it's 2 months ago, and I will get it up when I get this one up tomorrow. Okay. Moving on to the dam update. So, Holly, do you want to talk about this or do you want me to?
I'll take it.
Okay.
As you're aware, a while ago, we were notified by DPW that there was a leakage identified through the 24-inch lower level outlet, which is one of the drain lines out of the lake. In the bottom part of the pipe, it was actually observed that was leaking up through. They identified that to us, and from that, the plan was to move forward, and we're going to have periodic inspections done to say, is the leakage getting worse or better? That becomes the trigger point. Do we actually have to invoke a repair? They did an inspection 2 weeks ago, was it? About 2 weeks ago. We don't have any information about the inspection, but the preliminary sounds like it did not get worse, but I don't want to say that because it's too preliminary until I actually see it in writing. We requested a copy a couple times now, and we're still waiting for that to come forward. So, but we're DPW with Tectonics as the engineering company that conducted the inspection. We're just waiting for the report. We also had periodic meetings with the DPW to maintain alignment of what's going on with the dam. One of the things is we're looking at the trend associated with what's going on with the leakage up through the pipe, and not just the pipe, but also other areas of the dam surface. As you're aware, over the last couple of weeks, or last couple of months, I should say, there was not a lot of rainfall. The lake became a bowl where you don't have any water coming in, and hypothetically, nothing's going out over the top of the spillway because lake level is dropping. It's dropping by two mechanisms. One is through natural evaporation rates, and the other is through leakage through the dam. So we're asking the DPW to take a look, not just at what's coming out of the lower level, lower level outlet, but also there is corrugated steel, which are the walls that do the retain of the soil around the dam, and also through the expansion and contraction joints. So I want to try to get them on board just to say, okay, what are we doing with the whole picture so we can actually tighten everything up. There are sluice gates. They're supposed to be calibrated. They were supposed to be working on that for the control status. The way these drain lines work, there's an 18-inch and a 24-inch on opposite ends of the dam. They have there's a metal pipe that's called the operator, basically goes up to a hand wheel on top of the cage wheel. They operate the valves from up there. Over the winter last year, the operator goes down to the 24-inch valve because we observed it was bent. We asked them to assess it and say what needs to be done with it, if anything, or is it still functional? We didn't hear back from that. And the other part has to do with a very tattered CB&I flag that's been out there now for a long time. It's shredded. You can't even tell it's a flag anymore. We asked them to remove it. It's just an eyesore, and they're working on getting that done. Anyway, when we have a meeting with them, we'll assess it and get updates on all those items. That's it.
Thank you. We have a beach update. So thank you for a wonderful beach season, everybody. We had hundreds of residents here utilizing the beach when it was open. And we appreciate the awesome team of lifeguards who were here this summer. We're really hoping to get some of them back. We were lucky this year. We got some younger lifeguards, which means they can return. Where in previous years, we've had mostly college students, which is fantastic. We can't always get them back because they move on to bigger and better things. So we're really excited to welcome them back, hopefully next year. And we are looking to possibly adjust our hours for next year, just kind of thinking through this with the board out loud. Oftentimes at 11 o'clock, the beach was sitting open, and then on the other side of it, we were kind of like kicking people out to close the beach at night.
As soon as I heard that idea, I thought, especially on the back end, the 8 o'clock. Now, do we do 7:30? You know, is it a half hour make a difference? You know, so that's something we can certainly talk about. We have a lot of time, but yeah, I think later is better.
It's just something to consider for next year, like a 12 to 8
Some-
instead of an
What did
11
we
to 7.
find as far as the 11 o'clock hour? Was that something that basically was not wholly utilized and there was more of a later time? Will it be easy to push it back, say to, just thinking out loud, noon to 8 or something like that? Where I don't know what the 11 o'clock time really brought into the lake.
Yeah, so not that many people came at 11, and definitely we had more folks on the later side, so I think,
It also gives us more time to do the proper inspection at the right time. So if it's early in the morning and we haven't seen any lake movement, the day after started, and we make too early of a call on a potential situation, we don't want to close the beach for no reason. I think later in the day is a better choice.
As soon as the
later.
wind picks up.
yep, later in the day is a better choice. Okay, so we'll look at that for next year. I know I would love the later time at the end of the day. It was nice to be there after work and relax. Great. So thank you for that input also. So we will look at that as we move into the next beach season here in Beaver Dam Lake. All right, so moving on to the next topic, our lake health report. Wally, do you want to chat about that?
Sure. Just to dovetail in, what Erica was talking about was the beach operation was great, but at the last week of the beach operation, we actually had to make a conservative call to close the beach early because of a potential, where there was an algae bloom. We didn't confirm whether it was a hazardous algae bloom or not, but we made a conservative call to close the beach 1 week early. With that being said, that ties directly into lake health. There are two things you got to consider. The lake itself, which is what goes on in there internally, and externally, what comes into the lake. Speaking about it internally, the nutrients is what drives the growth of the algae, if you will. The phosphorus and nitrogen primarily. What we ended up having here for the months of July and August, the rainfall was next to nothing. The temperatures were in the 90s pretty much repeatedly. So ultimately happened over that period of time. The lake dropped probably about 9-10 inches below the spillway, making it just a stagnant bowl of water, effectively, with no water coming in the stream at all. The heat heating up the lake surface, evaporating it, and also leakage through the dam, like we talked about earlier, helped to drive levels down. It was probably dropping about an inch every, I think it was like 4 or 5 days. Right now, go out and look at, we're still about 6 inches below the spillway. We're supposed to get some rain tomorrow. Hopefully that'll bring it up. But anyway, when you have that kind of conditions, it contributes to algae blooms taking effect, which is what we saw there at the last. Fortunately, worked out very well over the summer for us. We weren't crippled by it. When we got closer to the end of the swim season, it started to really creep up on us. To compensate for that, we had to do 2 additional algicide treatments. Pond and Lake Connection is our vendor who we are under contract with to conduct those. So we did 1 in August and 1 in September. All that being said, when you add up all the algicide treatments and herbicide treatments for the year, we spent about $46,800 total in treatments against a budget that we approved of $49,391. So we came in slightly under for all the treatments.
And that includes the herbicide treatments as well.
That includes the herbicide. There were a total of 9 total treatments. There were 2 herbicide and the rest were all algicide treatments.
Great. And that also includes the DEC permits.
And the DEC permits, correct. So that is pretty much that. The next part is external. And again, the ultimate goal is to keep the water crystal clear with no algae growing anywhere. It's, when I first got started, I said, well, that's going to be easy to do. Let's set a goal. We're not going to have any algae blooms.
Right.
That's not realistic. So, but we could control what we can control, and that's working with very, very smart people. So the internal, we're relying heavily on Pond and Lake Connection to help keep us on the straight and narrow with that. Externally, and I'm going to turn this over to Chris, talk a little bit in a minute, but we look at what comes into the lake, because the more nutrients that's in the lake, that helps propagate the algae growth, and it could ultimately lead to HABs. So internally, what we're looking at doing for next year is Northeast Aquatics was a company who we interfaced with over the last probably 2 years. They did the assessment of the vegetation inside the lake when we had a drain prior to refill, and also looked at it from all the tributaries and streams coming into the lake and say, what could we do different to help reduce our nutrient loading coming in from the outside? And one of the biggest items that are adding to it right now is the sewer municipality, which Chris, one of our board members here, took a very strong lead. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris to talk about that.
So just to make everybody, bring anybody who's brand new, if you want to check back on YouTube videos, especially going back to meetings in February, March, and April of this year is when we began speaking the most specifically about the Little Britain School Speedy's discharge situation. What I'm about to read kind of fills in a lot of the questions that we had back then. So for continuity, if anybody does want to go back and you want to rehash those notes as to how this all came about. And by the way, as Wally said, there's a lot of pieces in the puzzle. Whether we're, being that we're speaking about internal versus external, once again, this is an external source potentially of extra nutrients. So I'll jump into it. Working through Senator Skoufis's office, we were able to learn that the Washingtonville School District was issued a notice of violation, not a fine, in response to a complaint, mostly by the community, about its treatment system or former treatment system, going back possibly up to 20 years ago, as we found out that there was actually beyond a in-ground discharge system, otherwise known as, what is it, everybody? Septic system, right? So a septic system, so think of a septic system at this size, its potential to drop a whole lot of nutrients out into the world is quite high, especially when you're dealing with an elementary school and if the tanks are not dealt with and cleaned properly. And so after the Department of Water, which is a division of the DEC, has inspected the site, and this inspection actually happened in 2021. They were issued the violation in June. They found that the school's wastewater system was discharging to the ground, the septic system, and had not been discharging to the surface water. That's good. In follow-up with the school, it appears they have had groundwater discharge for approximately 10 years. Now, this is Senator Skoufis's office talking. I happen to find out through FOIL request to the DEC that this has been 20 years and possibly beyond. Some of the records are not complete, and that's something that any one of you could always look up if you ever wanted to, see what permits they hold. And this would be the Washingtonville School District, of course. We asked that they do the proper decommissioning of the old treatment system. They used to have a chlorinator and a building and a tank and a sand filter, and it had been rusting and falling in, and that had been uncovered a while ago. And so they deleted that. They sent in the formal request to end that prior permit and to begin for the correct permit. Now, the problem with the correct permit is that they need plans for what they're to have right now. The DEC also noted that they do not have plans. They do not have the engineering plan. So that is where the violation came in. They completed the decommissioning by September 2021 and sent it to the sent in the attached request for deletion. In January of 2022, they submitted a Speedy's PCI application. This application is under review by the DEC and was determined that the current treatment system does not have the engineering plan approval, as I said. The Department of Water, once again, that is the DEC, so don't be confused that that's another department, it's still the DEC, will be issuing a violation. The engineering consultant for the school is in the process of developing and submitting plans to the Orange County Department of Health. Once the Department of Water receives flow confirmation from the Department of Health, the Department of Water's technical review of the Speedy's permit will be complete. Now, this has not happened yet, and it's just been ongoing for a while. So school doesn't stop, the wastewater system doesn't stop, the septic system doesn't stop. So it begs the question, we need testing. After speaking to several residents and some of our limnologists that have helped out, especially Wally spoke with Pond Lake Connection, and we've been speaking with Northeastern Aquatics in the past at the conference earlier this year upstate, and you don't know until you know. So testing on the main tributaries is definitely essential to know if we are indeed getting some form of pollution from the Little Britain School itself. The DC has not confirmed that they have re-inspected the site because that was under request that they do so because it was just incomplete data. So that is where we are with that.
Couple questions.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, you had mentioned that we are we need to do a test, what type of test do we need to do?
To probably most likely a fecal coliform test. Because fecal coliform would tell if you're getting some form of human or animal waste, most likely it's human, it's coming from school. That would certainly contribute to high levels of nutrient loading in our lake if that is found.
How far is the stream from their existing sewer lines?
So the current sewer lines are not on premises. They're the neighborhood, yeah, Stewart Terrace, that's right, thank you, Larry. Stewart Terrace has the nearest sewer lines, which are on the other side of that stream that flows this way. So to answer your question, few hundred yards.
Okay, and this, right now their septic is probably leaching into the stream, which comes into our lake.
Until proven, but it's very plausible.
So it makes sense to actually test right at the source, at the inlet to the stream, close to the school. And test down here at the lake and see how much is actually making it into the lake.
Certainly. Go ahead. Fred.
I think based on experience I've had in the past, if we're concerned about biological waste coming into the lake from the school, then what we need to do is a 3-point test. Before the school, after the school, and what's coming into the lake. So whatever company that we're going to be dealing with, because we are not capable of doing that test. Although I've done it in the past with just sterile sample containers. I've done it in Chester. But this is something that is going to be definitive as far as what is coming into the lake. But it needs to be a 3-point examination.
Does it make sense to force Washington School District to fund the cost of the test?
It's difficult without definitive proof that it's going to, that it's being done, that it's a problem. Again, anytime you talk about money from a school district or a municipality, you're jumping through hoops. Now, if we're going to be dealing with either NEA, or Northeast Aquatics, or another company, I think this is all part of the process that we need to examine in the coming year.
I like the fact that we do our own test because then it's therefore it's completely independent.
As long as you do it through a certified
I
laboratory.
agree with that.
So on that note, we do have money in the budget for next year, which we talked about last month, to work with a consultant. It would have to be done through the RFP process to identify a consultant that would be able to meet our needs in regards to this kind of testing too.
And also just through speaking with Senator Scoopus's office, that was actually one of the suggestions, was having a third-party test of some sort. Because you're not gonna be able to hold anybody definitively accountable until there's something.
Exactly.
So just to cut it, make it simple.
We do have a resident question. Amazon Prime looks close to the school. What system do they use to deal with sanitary issues?
We could look into that, from the top of my head, in the watershed map, that would not be in our watershed, believe it or not. I believe it could be the Moodna watershed, or heading towards, sorry. Maybe it's kind of heading towards 208, but we can check back on that, certainly.
And next year, if we work with Northeast Aquatics, we're going to take a look at all the watershed. So specifically what's coming into Beaver Dam. And if they do any remediation, Chris, with their sewer lines up there now, when would that be? When is the earliest? We want to do the testing before they do that.
The testing should be done as soon as possible.
That's what I mean, instead of waiting until next year.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of held off the idea of the summer because students weren't in.
Right, you need a peak.
We probably started talking about this mostly in June. And then it was like, summer, kids are gone, why be testing if you're not using the system the same way?
Right.
But in terms of actual, shovels hitting the ground, that's, I cannot answer that question right now.
Just makes sense to do it sooner than later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Erica, right now the budget's for 2023 to do that.
Yes,
Can we conduct any testing this year with any funds?
I would have to go back and look.
Well, we don't know how much it will cost to do the testing, so you need to know that from us.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other notes from you, Chris?
I can either talk about the sewer now or later.
get into it.
Okay, so, real fast, over the summer, I'll just quick read my response that I got back from John and Gito. So some of you may have noticed, anybody noticed the truck sitting over the manholes this summer? Occasionally may have seen a large utility truck
Yep.
with a pump and,
Short drive.
yep, and, yeah, and all over. So this was the response, because I wanted to just get it from the superintendent of the sewer system in New Windsor. John and Gito responded back to me. Said, hi, Chris, the town of New Windsor applies annually for grant money associated with projects to identify and remediate sewer infiltration inflow under the broader infrastructure repairing funding, which is from the state. The town has been the beneficiary of these grants for the past 3 years in a row. Once approved, the town prioritized where best to utilize these funds. This year, the town identified sewer mains in the Beaver Dam Lake area to be cleaned, televised, and if the deficiencies are found, if any problems are found, subsequently would be repaired. This project covers about 22,000 feet of sewer main and is currently ongoing. And this email was given right before August, actually. Trucks sitting over quote manholes are either in the process of clearing the line or inspecting the line with a closed circuit TV monitored camera on a crawler tractor in the pipe. So that's a quick explanation of what that is. And that's good to know. And this is probably, we could speculate why this area, if the town has these funds every year, could very well have to do with the Cornwall social build at the other end of Shore Drive, because one of the things we also learned about that is that Cornwall does not own the sewer system, and they have to, in order to get that project moving, in order for the builder to get that project moving, they have to verify that the New Windsor sewer system can handle it, and
Which they've already been told they can't.
which that you guys, so Fred and Larry went to the last planning board meeting in Cornwall. So they just learned, could you just repeat that? They learned that,
Well, this was something that Larry found out earlier. You wanna?
Yeah, in a nutshell, as Chris had gone to the initial meeting and got a really great deep dive about what was happening, took great notes and sent them out to us, got the ball rolling, but we went to this last meeting and we were able to speak with the chair after the meeting, because Cornwall Social was not on the agenda. We thought it was, but it ended up not being on. So at the end of the meeting, we spoke with the gentleman, I believe he was the chair, and he explained to us that there is no more sewer capacity, and that although the project would need to purchase sewer capacity from New Windsor and create their own sewer district, that New Windsor is not in agreement to this. So he said, there is no more capacity. So as far as we know, right now, things are kind of at a stalemate with that, and it cannot proceed. And just to tandem in real quick, they are not on the agenda for the planning board in October. So it may be stalled right now as far as Cornwall Social Club. So we'll have to circle back to that later.
When we talk about Cornwall Social Club, what we're talking about is the old Pennings.
Yeah, that'll come in later. Yeah.
and just one more thing, so in terms of repairs, that I also just posed that question to John Agito at New Windsor Sewer, and he'll get back to me. I'm sure I'll have that information soon if any repairs are needed. But
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Good job.
Appreciate that. Sorry, I'm just muting a few folks here. Any questions all about what we talked about? I don't see any resident questions.
did anybody see the trucks?
Oh,
Everybody
Did
saw
anybody
the
see the
truck.
trucks?
How could you not see the truck?
Everybody saw the truck.
I thought they were pumping. I didn't know they were.
We're running these large orange lines way down, and the men sit there and smoke most of it.
On Shore
Few
Drive.
residents did mention
Robot
that
would do
they,
that.
that they did have some issues with their sewer system, pumping out through the toilet as they were clearing the lines. And they recommended that people keep their toilets closed, because there was a couple of in-home disasters. So, I mean, I followed suit. I did notice that there was.
Confirmed, we've had problems coming down from this project itself. It was
Wow.
interesting, I'll mention that.
Yes.
So, like, keep your toilets closed, guys. It's just good advice. Just keep your toilets closed. All right, so thank you for that. A resident kind of issue that came up, or I don't know if we want to call it a resident issue. But there was a deer that was found deceased in the lake. The Beaver Dam Lake Board was notified by a resident regarding the deceased deer in the lake. And the DEC was notified the very next morning in accordance with expectations for reporting potential episodic hemorrhage, help me, EHD. So it is a viral disease. It is a zoonotic disease that affects deer. And it is, the deer catch it by bites from no-see-ums. So it's bug to deer. It cannot go from deer to deer. It cannot go from deer to humans. A DEC sample was not taken because of how long the deer had been deceased and the short half-life of the virus. Again, the disease does not spread from deer to deer or deer to human. And really, really appreciate Kevin Boyle and Larry Weinberg for
Wait a minute,
removing the
Kevin
deer
and I
from the
brought
lake.
this thing to the island.
Okay,
You know,
so
reached
I
in there
appreciate
and I
all
knocked
the
over head.
people who assisted in the removal of the deceased deer from the lake. And then I appreciate the DPW for coming and collecting the
I think he
carcass.
committed suicide personally.
Listen, times are
What
tough.
about that venison stew cook-off coming up?
Oh, don't know. So anyway, so the board members got deer out of the lake, and then the DPW took the deer off the reserve. I really, really appreciate everybody that played a role in that, because I did not.
Just an add on there, because I did speak to the DEC specifically about this, and the concern is if you see a dead deer, there is a disease going around. It does affect white-tailed deer. If you see anything like that, there is a request to notify the DEC as soon as you see it, because if it's a recent hit on it, they want to be able to take a sample to say, does it have the EHD disease? Come away with it. And also in Cornwall, we haven't seen it here yet. The bird flu actually hit a bunch of buzzards. I think there were about 5 buzzards that they found dead around the Cornwall pond in the town of Cornwall. And down if you go to northern Jersey, they found 100 dead buzzards around the lake down there. We haven't seen anything up this way at all yet. But if you see dead animals, just don't say it's a dead animal. Think about, is there anything we should be considering? You can get in touch with us, the board members, and we could help you try to pull the thread on it, or just get directly in touch with the DEC.
But let us know about it also. If you could just shoot us an email if you are going to contact the DEC directly. In fact, it was a resident that encouraged us, saw a newspaper article and encouraged us to contact DEC about this particular deer-related disease. So we really appreciate it. Jason said there was a dead deer in my yard a few weeks ago, didn't look hit. New Windsor Highway took it away. They didn't drop it in the lake, did they, Jason? Kidding. All right, thank you. All right, let's chat fishery stocking.
Fishery stocking.
Fishery stocking.
Okay, our last meeting was in July. We have not done any additional stocking of fish since our last meeting. The next phase of our restocking plan is to put yellow perch and additional fathead minnows in this fall, which is part of the food supply for the fish in the lake. Just to backstep a little bit, back in the May-June timeframe, we put a bunch of largemouth bass in, and also crappies and a lot of fathead minnows. So the next phase was the yellow perch and more fathead minnows here in the fall. I was notified by the hatchery, and I'm concerned with this, that the DPW has not issued payment to the hatchery for the fish that were put in the lake back in May and June timeframe. I have been talking directly to DPW that they need to pay their bills timely and work on this right now. But I have another email out to them today, because I still believe as of today, they still haven't paid.
Okay,
So I'll be following up on that.
thank you.
As far as the effects of our stocking that we have done, I've received a lot of positive feedback from a lot of avid fishermen here on the lake, that they have noticed a substantial difference in the amount of fish and the quality of fish and the health of the fish, mostly largemouth bass. Another thing you're going to see on the lake we're seeing a lot more of them. They're called cormorants. They're the diving ducks. And if you see a duck swimming on a lake, all of a sudden you don't see it, and it comes up 12 feet away, 15 feet away somewhere else. They're actually called cormorants. They actually feed primarily on fish. So they're helping to everything we stock in the lake. I seen one the other day, he had probably about a 3-4 inch fish, took it out, flipped it up and swallowed it whole. So
And they're supposed to release it. That's what's on the signs.
they're supposed to release, catch and release, but they're not releasing. Anyway, so it's not a problem right now that we need to address, but I think sometime in the future, I'll talk to the hatcheries and say, what do they recommend? The additional signage that Chris had put up and the vigilance of a lot of residents challenging non-residents on the reserves that they see fishing has substantially helped reduce the amount of trespassers that are not residents fishing in our lake. It was dramatic difference. As soon as Chris put the signs up, I was seeing like 5-6 people a night on either Reserve 8 or Reserve 2 fishing. After the signs went up, went to like 0. Where'd all the fishing people that were fishing go? Well, apparently they weren't residents.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for the sign. Good job again.
Question.
Yeah,
With the quality of the water because of the drought, has it affected or will it affect the stocking of the yellow perch with the water quality issue?
Quick answer is no.
Okay.
Yeah, hey, I did talk to the hatchery about that. It's not, we'll probably be doing this at the end of October. We're gonna have a lot more.
And
rain.
have we stopped the additional adding of the fathead minnows?
We did not stop the addition of the fatted minnows at this point. I actually spoke to them and they said they still highly recommend putting fatted minnows in.
Of course they do.
Okay.
just kind of anecdotally, I know at the beach this summer, there
Oh.
were so many minnows, or I'll call them small fish. I'm assuming minnows. The kids were catching them in their hands. Like it was tremendous, the amount of minnows that we had here at the beach. I don't know if it was that way lake wide, but it was that way at the beach. Kids were sitting out on the floating docks with just buckets in their hands and catching minnows.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
never seen anything like it, so.
Yeah,
Let me start, the minnows again, just to say where minnows they're basically fish. They're not small baby fish that grow into something bigger.
Right.
They stay as
Stay
minnows.
that way.
And they basically lay a lot of eggs and they get a lot more minnows from the minnows. So Fred actually asked a good question. Does it make sense to continue stocking fatted minnows based on what we saw here at the beach? So I did ask the hatchery already once, but I'll speak to them again as to whether or not it really makes sense to put more fatted minnows in. If the food supply is already there and all we're doing is drawing in more cormorants into the area to help feed on minnows.
Right, and Wally, question, my understanding too is like in the future seasons or future years that we would cease to need to do that.
We don't plan on doing anything beyond this year.
Yeah, okay, right.
Yeah. This right here is the initial stocking to get it going. That's why we have to really strongly enforce the catch and release. If you catch a nice, healthy, largemouth bass that's completely full of eggs, they have like, what the numbers are, it's like 3,000 eggs in it. That's really hurting the population of the fish. So it has to be catch and release for now.
Yeah, so whatever it's been in the history of, there are many residents who've been here almost in a lifelong residence. The point is that in our current state, the way we're at, we are catch and release. Doesn't matter what you did 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So we have the PFAS issue, we have the restocking issue. So please, there's no need for us to go back and forth until this, however it changes over the future. That's all great, but for now, it's catch and release. Period. So we can't all have debates about that.
No, I don't think there's much of a debate. In fact, from Reserve 2, everybody I've approached, whether they be residents or unfortunately non-residents, their general attitude is, I'm not going to eat anything out of this lake. It's more of a recreational type thing. So I can't guarantee that that's most of it, but and I agree with what Larry's saying. In fact, to go into a deeper history, because of the PFOS and the FOA situation, until we can get approval that there is no longer a danger, not just with increasing the number of fish, but really we don't know at this point how safe it is to eat the fish. So I think it's a done deal that we are strictly catch and release until further notice.
And staying that way. There's one other thing on the fishing aspect of it. It's actually a requirement. It's about local, part of local law that you're not allowed to fish in the swim area here on Reserve 4.
Right.
We took down the ropes and the demarcation of where the swim area is last week. I did observe a boat with a father and a son and their dog. with their boat fishing in that area. I spoke to them and they're very, very cordial about it. After we thought about it, because it totally makes sense. You can't fish in there because if you start breaking your line and leaving
Yeah, you
hooks
don't
in the
want to
area,
hook
kids are
them
gonna
in.
get hooks in their feet when they go swimming there. So there's still no fishing in the swim area. So-
Thank you. It's a very good point. I've seen
Mm-hmm.
where there were like, people had done it and there were lines left right on the shore too, so. Definitely, please do not fish in this. Good add, thank you. All right, Fred, I know you talked to us last month about the C-SLAP results. Are there any updates? How many tests are left to do this year?
We're done.
We're done.
We're done. The last one was done with Captain Kevin. A couple of weeks ago, the samples were sent out. And I'm hoping that final results will be obtained before they were last year. But the main thing is, I don't have to mention this to everybody, is that because of the drought and the stagnation problem, that it's mucky. That the clarity was very low and there's a lot of algae buildup, but as far as C-SLAP is concerned, we're under control. The only additional thing is we're going to try to advance the application for next year. So that because of the, how can I say this nicely? The slow amount of time that the county takes to pay the bills. We can get this thing done, so Nancy doesn't start bugging you to get this thing taken care of.
Do you have any additions on the Bloom's optics and work that we're doing?
Well,
Then the
Go ahead.
C-SLAP stuff really quick. The 2021, we got results from that, which took a long time.
Yep.
And I'm sure they'll get better enough for 2022. What do we do with that data as far as?
what
How does
we
it
do
benefit
with the
us?
data is really not much. It's basically a statewide evaluation. We have not changed the designation of our lake over since the last couple of years. We are considered a eutrophic lake, one that is basically has a problem with algae potential as well as a poor oxygen level in the lower levels. So it's just a case of this is where we stand, and we're hoping that through the use of our management companies and other issues, we can improve that. Yes, we're part of a 160 lake statewide program. And while we really are not going to say, well, this is what we have, we know what we have to do. We have to decrease the nutrients that are coming into the lake and what's there already. But this is to benefit the whole state. This is why we're part of the program.
Well, I would also suggest that C-SLAP data would be beneficial to provide to our lake management company to
Yes,
inform
exactly.
any treatment plans and
Mhm.
the budget that results
Absolutely.
from that.
Well, that's where I go to. It's like, you're gonna take your temperature and say, I have fever, but what are you gonna do? Are you gonna take Advil or not? So it's, what do you do with the test data? It's because we get involved in Northeast Aquatics, that's gonna be the primary driver is what do we do with the data?
I
And
think,
this is an
as
input
Derek
to them.
said, I think it's excellent that we can provide this to NEA. Although with NEA, they're gonna say we need more than one sampling point, which we can then multiply onto, based on their testing protocols. That if NEA wants additional testing, we're set up where we can do that and supply them with the data. It's not like it's wasted money.
Okay, that's the other question. Do we have to pay them to be part of this?
Oh, yes.
How
Yes,
much do
I
we pay?
forget what the cost is. Erica, I think you pay the bill on that. I don't know what it is.
We have to be,
300, right? No.
we have to pay to be a member of NICEFOLA. And then there's a small C-SLAP fee. I can get that data for you, but it is less than $500.
Yeah. As well as our participation in NICEFOLA, which I'm gonna add on to say that coming up in May or April, anyone who wants to be part of the C-SLAP program needs to participate in the NICEFOLA training, so that we can increase the number of people that are involved in this thing.
Okay, so more information to come and I can send out that specific information
Yes.
seeking volunteers via email because I think we probably want a wider audience for that question than just the folks that are here.
Mhm.
So looking at time, do we want to move to Bloom's Optics, which is pilot? Hang on, sorry, I gotta mute somebody. Which is the pilot program in which we are participating, where we are able to sample algal blooms when they happen, and then we can send them to scientists at SUNY EFS, in addition to a company called Bloom's Optics, and their app uses artificial technology to identify the types of algae that are part of the sample. We were provided a small microscope that hooks up wirelessly to our phones that are able to take photos of the microscopy and send that way. And Fred and Molly have taken quite a lead on it this summer, doing some of the samples. So Fred, do you want to talk about how many samples you've taken?
We've sent
and-
out, well, we have taken photographs of numerous samples, and I have in my phone a tremendous album of samples. We sent out 3 to Bloom Optics. Unfortunately, one was messed up by FedEx, so it didn't arrive in time. But Bloom Optics was able to confirm that we do have HABs in the samples. It was beautiful. If you want to, I can send them to anybody who's interested, the nice little squiggles and I forget the terms that they use for it, but in fact, Molly loved it. I mean, she had more fun with this thing. And sometimes you see a little critter moving around in there, and it's like watching a video game. But so 3 samples were sent to them. They confirmed what we had found. And what's nice is the fact that now it gave them additional information that they, because of the sample that was sent in, can then go to the DEC to say, they're looking to say, instead of taking a week to get information as to whether it's a real HAB, to be able to say, yes, this is what the photograph says, it's either a HAB or it's not a HAB, so we're not waiting for days to open or close the beach. So that's the main objective on this, and their program is ongoing through November. So we'll be continuing to take samples and send them to them.
Great, thank you. And we will provide, I'll put some pictures up. We can put some pictures up on the Facebook page, right? We'll provide you some pictures.
You're
just to
more
kind of
knowledgeable
show
than
you,
I am on this.
just to kind of show you what kinds of things we were learning from
Got a
that.
nice
So,
squiggles.
And just for clarification, there were samples from our lake, but not necessarily from the swim area.
No, most of our that Molly and I took were either from in front of our property at 145 Shore or Reserve 2.
Right, okay. Just to clarify, weren't the swim area.
Right.
not this swim area. We let the Department of Health sample the swim area as needed this year. We did not take it upon ourselves to sample the swim area. Alrighty, so we talked about the Cornwall Social Club. Was there anything that we needed to add about the Cornwall Social Club?
Real quick.
Mhm.
All right, so here's a common thread issue that's happening throughout our community, is a water issue as far as wells and additional wells being added, thus lowering your potential in your home to have access to well water, and a sewer issue. So both of those are the same issues in the Cornwall Social Club, which is the former Pennies. But here is where, as an active citizen in your community, if you want to make a difference, here is how you can get involved. So Waterview Terrace ended up with a subdivision project that is a surprise to everybody. I didn't know what was going on. Fred and I went to this town planning board meeting and we got a surprise. They were on open hearing, public hearing. We didn't even know about it. But those residents had received a letter in the mail certified to say, hey, let's hear what you've got to say. Well, a bunch of active, engaged people in the community went to the meeting. And they were able to stop work order on a project that was clearing their trees from their backyard illegally, and a subdivision of a 5-acre lot that was never allowed to be subdivided. They were able to stop that by being engaged and part of the process. We'll have this issue. I'm by no means do I, or anybody that I know of, not want the Cornwall Social Club to come, but we do not want to impact our water quality as far as anything with the lake. And that has to do with the tie into the sewer system. This is a common thread issue, as we mentioned earlier, for those who missed. We do not have more sewer capacity here for anybody to tie in. And that's where that project is currently on hold, because they were clearing trees and they're looking to put 2 wells there. They're only allowed 1 well. And they're also looking to tie into the sewer system where they were originally allowed one tie-in, now they want two. So I just wanted to bring that up.
So, Larry, can I just ask a question? This is something I remember from one of the meetings. Was anything said in the last meeting in Cornwall regarding if enough changes were required that they would have to go back and redo the site plan? Is that like, because this, to me, this is sounding like a lot more.
You know,
It's gonna be needed.
all we were told was that there is no capacity to buy any sewer. As much as far as buying into the district to get capacity for profit, there is no more capacity. So there wasn't discussed whether or not they were gonna reopen or redesign anything. I believe that, however the system, however people make this whole thing work, either there's gonna be some kind of a new agreement or new arrangement made, or they're gonna have to figure out some alternative.
Let me ask you from an ignorance point of view, how do we know at the next planning board meeting, if in fact it's gonna be on the agenda? You know probably more than I do. on
Yeah, so I've been in touch with Diane Hines. She is the person who's running the planning board meetings. And she's given me full permission to call her on a regular basis to ask at specific times. People have to submit their plan to be on that month's meetings. So today was the deadline for Cornwall Social Club. I called Diane. She said Cornwall Social Club is not on because they didn't meet the October 3rd deadline. Therefore, they can't present. Therefore, it definitely can't be public hearing.
Okay. And to add what Larry was saying, I was at a workshop that took place, even though I was asked, why are you here? What was brought up, if anybody's interested in, anybody familiar with off of 94, where the Cornwall High School is on Dragon Road or Dragon Drive, there is a massive development, big project going on there. And there was a proposal going on, which has nothing to do with the social club. But it's interesting how people are wanting to grab any land that's available and build as many homes as possible on it. So it's interesting. I'll tell you, if you get involved with this stuff, to see what's going on in your community.
Guys, so more to come on Cornwall Social Club as we learn it. Lee Song said planning board's notification requirement is for properties abutting the lot and across the street. ZBA's is within 500 feet radius. So thank you for that. Alrighty. And we are down to my favorite topic, community events. So we have, I'm hearing.
Can I
claps.
set up a yoga plan?
Can you set up, so, okay, so yes, you can come to yoga here in the beach in Beaver Dam Lake. So, we have a resident on Noreen Keegan who went through the extensive DPW process to acquire through her business the proper insurances that she needs and dealt with county risk management and all those things that she needed to do in order to be approved to do this after she got board approval to go through this process. So she did jump through some hoops. So just so you know, yoga is happening here on Sunday mornings at 9:30. I sent a flyer and an email. It's going to be held outside on the beach if possible. If not, it is being held in the building. Bring your own yoga mat. She did drop off some extras that'll live here. For folks that don't have it, it is for all levels. So if you're interested in yoga, Sundays, 9:30. And it is done when you come, you can either drop in, you can call the number on the flyer and she will inform you of ways to pay her directly. I think it's $15, 10 or $15. She has, I think, a Cash App or Venmo or something like that that she does.
Drinking privileges only.
So you cannot come to yoga and drink. Okay, so I will email out that information. I see a question already from Jason about the trunk or treat. Yes, we are gonna have the trunk or treat this year if the board says it's okay.
Yes.
Can we have the trunk or treat, guys?
I'll try.
All right, trunk or treat happening again. I'd like to do it on October 30th, which is the day before Halloween. I think it's a Sunday, because Halloween's a Monday, I think.
Well, that makes sense.
Am I lying?
Sure.
Somebody tell me.
30th is a Sunday.
Sunday.
30th is a Sunday, so I would like to do it on the Sunday. As opposed to the Monday, if that's
Mhm.
okay with folks. I will be putting out an email and Facebook notifications requesting volunteers for really specific tasks. We're gonna need folks to come down and decorate their trunks like they did last year. We're gonna need candy donated like happened last year. And we're gonna need decorations and we're gonna need all sorts of stuff for trunk or treat. This is- Fred's gonna have a permit table.
That's actually a good idea.
We did it last year and we got a couple applications. So trunk or treat was a great time last year. We had a lot of residents come. We did it actually on Halloween
Good
last year.
candy too.
And good candy. It was great. So
When they have that event.
we're gonna have it October
after.
30th. We have just about all of our events right here on this property. Just because we have bathrooms here. So again, we'll send out email notifications requesting specific volunteers for that. It's amazing. I've already had people contacting me asking me if they can volunteer for this event. So excited to do that. Hopefully not conflicting with the Washingtonville event this year. I have to check. Witches paddle. This is kind of a neat thing. We've never had this here before. The Witches paddle. So a resident would like to host this. It is a group paddle, which means kayak or paddleboard in October 15th. It would launch from Reserve 2, residents and escorted guests only. And you would dress in a costume, perhaps a witch costume, and you would group paddle around the lake. This is supposed to look very cool because it'll be all misty and then you'll have these witches paddling by, right? So that's the concept. Yes, I'm going to do it. I will be there. So more info to come on the witches paddle. So don't deflate your paddle boards yet. But also like be pretty good at paddle boarding because the water's gonna be cold.
Can you do it in a pontoon boat? I mean.
Sure, if you want to do it in a pontoon boat, you just have to stay away from the paddle boarders. Actually, you know what? No, you can't. Cannot.
Also, Kevin.
So the next thing, Girl Scouts. Girl Scouts are being held again, starting in the community building. In a couple of Fridays. It's once a month. And it's, Beaver Dam Lake girlies and guests. And it is a brownie troop. So if you have any girls in first, second grade who are interested in Girl Scouts and don't already have a troop, you can contact me and I can hook you up with the group that meets here in Beaver Dam Lake. There was a resident request to host a chili cook-off. It's the same lady who does the yoga, Noreen, and I am at capacity with some of these other events. So my request is Noreen would have to work with a board member to do a chili cook-off. You want to do that? Okay. So is everybody good with Larry taking on the chili cook-off?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. Larry, get us more information. I'll hook you up with Noreen. And I know nothing of chili cook-offs, so just let me know how that's all gonna work out. Yes,
Not too spicy.
all right. So apparently it's gonna be competitive, is what I just heard. And then looking ahead to Christmas, I'm gonna harass Salisbury Mills Firehouse again to see if they might be willing to hook us up with Santa. And
Nobody gets stuck on the beach though with their truck.
yeah, so
No trucks on the beach, period.
no trucks on the beach period. So we will be looking ahead to do some kind of like holiday Christmas event. So stay tuned for that. If you like happen to be connected with the firehouse or have close contact with Santa, please let us know. And then we can schedule around that person's schedule for the Christmas event. That's all I've got, which is a lot. That's A through F community events coming up. So that I'm really excited about that. And then pretty soon we'll be into ice skating here.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So yes, you can ice skate on the lake.
Provided it's frozen.
One bit
Yeah,
of advice
so we have
though.
residents in the room, which is
The
really
board
exciting.
is not responsible.
We're gonna fill you in
For
on the ice
letting people
skating.
know whether it's safe or not. That's up to the individuals.
All right. Hi, everyone. I missed it. So that's community events. Does anyone have anything to add? Community events?
Food drive and toy drive for the holidays,
Oh,
we
yeah.
did last year.
Yeah.
Still would be more towards the Christmas week. So we'll check the dates and we'll
Mhm.
recircle back.
Good.
Toy drive and food drive. Absolutely. Our community, it was amazing.
Last year,
Yeah.
pretty good.
Do you do a food drive for Thanksgiving also, or just Christmas?
We have not done a food drive for Thanksgiving in the past, but we did a food and toy drive last Christmas and it was
Yeah.
incredible. So thank you. Larry is usually our contact for all things donation. Okay, any other questions, comments about upcoming community events?
Nope, good.
Great, okay. Board member comments that haven't already been said. Hearing none. Resident comments. Chat box is the easiest way to do it. I tried to catch the questions as they've come up. Donnie, hi, I missed the first 45 minutes of the meeting tonight. Any chance we'll start posting the recorded minutes again on the YouTube channel? Donnie, I have been a slacker. Yes, I will have them. I promise. I pinky promise you that I'm gonna have them updated by tomorrow, including this meeting. Thank you.
And we did volunteer you, Donnie, by the way, to help upload them. I hope you're okay with that.
Sorry.
Erica, can you ask anybody if they could maybe work on that DER for the permits, or is that not the right time for our permit? Parking permits, if there's a computer savvy person who might wanna.
Yes. So we would love to make the permit process an electronic process. We would love somebody with the capacity to help us to do that. So if you are that kind of tech person that could help us to make the permit process, which is an arduous paper process, into an electronic process, that would be super helpful. Please contact me, bdlboard@gmail.com, so we can get you connected to Fred and Larry, who work through that process right now.
Would just be helpful, to avoid all the mailings and that, if you can immediately do it,
We don't want to do it through the mail.
it's gratification.
Yes. And then you can get your stuff earlier.
I guess my concern is just do it. Just.
Yeah.
It's been great and just keep, and I hate to tell you how many people said, I've lived here for 17 years and I didn't know I needed a permit. I mean.
I had a very angry gentleman who was very ticked off that his boat got stolen and told me he would not be the key. He did not permit it because he thinks permits are ridiculous. And then he had no way to identify his boat when he got stolen. So get your permits. Alrighty, seeing no other resident questions. Going once. Going twice. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, guys, have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're gonna talk to our new residents before we leave. All right, great, guys. Thank you. Have a great night.
And again,